Welcome back to NewsMakers. On the panel, David Around, Garth Gallaway and Kathryn Dalziel. Greenhouse gas emissions. The Prime Minister says New Zealand's reduction target by 2020 will be around 15%. The Greens want us to shoot for 40% and have decried the government's approach as half-hearted. Is John Key being unambitious for New Zealand? Mr. Round?
Well, I certainly... this is a long... I'd have to give you a long answer here. Look, I certainly think that the evidence is undoubted that greenhouse gas emissions are causing climate change, and I think 15% is probably worldwide not going to be enough to make any difference. At the same time, we don't want to put ourselves in the position of destroying ourselves now while the rest of the country goes on their merry way. There has to be international agreement to reduce emissions by as much as possible, and it's just a question of balancing those two things.
We are going to have to pay through the back pocket for
yes, we are.
A major reduction in emissions, aren't we? I think the government report estimated that pursuing a 40% target would equate to an average cost to a Kiwi of $60 a week, which is a hell of a bill, isn't it?
And that's the big problem, that any government in the world that did what was necessary to stop global emissions would lose power that afternoon. There'd be blood on the streets.
Politically, is it untenable? $60 a week is the price for a better planet?
I think in the current climate, it's untenable. It's extremely difficult for them. There's no easy answer to this issue. It seems to me you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Do you think Auntie Helen wanted New Zealand to be a world leader when it came to emissions reductions? I mean, John Key seems to be, just wanting to be part of the pack, not a leader.
I don't know if Auntie Helen wanted to be a world leader or not, but one of the things that I do think is that if the scientists are telling us and we accept that what it's doing to our planet is unacceptable and that this is the level that we need to work towards, you don't approach that in a half-hearted way. You don't say, oh, OK, well, I'll reduce that 30% that you guys recommend to 15% while taking into political considerations. What moves me is that last week we celebrated 40 years of man landing on the moon, and I was watching one of the programs where one of the astronauts from outer space said, I just look back at that beautiful planet and we have to look after it, and that moved me.
Yeah. All right. 15%, do you think we should be happy with that, or should we go higher?
It's a question of negotiation. We should go as high as we can, but what that is on the ground, and the facts on the ground, I don't know. All
right. Now, the Christchurch Arts Festival is in full swing, and many theatre-goers have been complaining about the growing absence of theatre etiquette. Spare a thought for the humble usher at the Isaac Theatre Royal, who has had a hell of a time lately trying to stop some patrons from standing up during Slava's snow show. To hell with everyone behind them seems to be, the modus operandi here. Has the rise of on-demand home theatre, ladies and gentlemen, turned many people into obnoxious, selfish pigs when it comes to the public arena? Mr. Gallaway.
Well, I don't know if it's home theatre, but I know that there are a lot of obnoxious, selfish pigs out there when it comes to... same with sport too, when people are going to try in the corner and everyone stands up and they stay standing up for about 5 minutes afterwards. It's hopeless and very frustrating. Having said that, I went to see Le Sud the other day, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but I was 2 minutes late for it and felt rather guilty.
Well, that's a breach of etiquette.
It's a complete breach, and I acknowledge it publicly now.
Yes. David.
I was watching one of those Bourne films with some friends of mine, and they had their teenage daughter with them, and that was gripping and full of action. She spent the entire film texting.
Did you stand up and text?
No, she didn't stand up and text, but there was a glow from her vicinity.
Kathryn, do you think the day is going to come when the theatre usher is not just equipped with a torch, but a taser?
Well, one would hope so, actually. But it worries me that it's the theatre usher that is left to educate in etiquette. And I think that we're actually behind the eight ball in so many spheres of our lives, just in terms of our availability now. So people are going into the theatre with their cell phones on, because no one's dealing with the fact that we're supposed to be available. People are expecting us to return calls or texts or messages. I deal with this at work, where I get an email from a client saying, here's the information I seek, half an hour later. Why haven't you replied? And I think this is the other problem that we've got with our cell phones as well, which is just this expect on demand. If your cell phone rings and I'm having a conversation with Garth, what do I do? Do I take it? We haven't worked that through. Sure. But my view is turn off your cell phones and arrive on time.
Exactly. and now, I've got about 60 seconds in total for your heroes and villains of the week. What has grabbed your appetite from the week, David, very quickly?
Hero, the young man who has announced he's never going to fly again, setting an example about reducing greenhouse gases.
Yes.
Villain, the pornographers on television who've been salivating at the way in which they give us every gruesome detail of the Clayton Weatherston murder. Every last little bit of mutilation. Boy, they're really enjoying that sex and violence. I thought they went far too far on that.
Thank you, David. Kathryn?
Hero, Mr and Mrs OECD guidelines that gave us the privacy protocols by which our ministers should behave. What was it? The Betty of the week for me is Mr and Mrs Reader's Digest, and they're advertising to people in rest homes in early stages of dementia who are confused by their promises of winning prizes.
On that goes. That's unstoppable, isn't
It's
it?
appalling.
Only a hero for me, and it was when I was coaching my under-8 soccer team, a win for the Skyhawks against the Mustangs, and a boy came to me, fewer than 4 occasions, and I said, turn around, pain is your friend, get on with it. Because they usually got a sore finger.
Yes.
His mother is my hero. She said, I know what the problem is, he needs to go to the loo. He raced 80 metres to a tree like a Labrador.
Fantastic. Now, the Newsmakers poll last week's question, should provocation remain as a partial defence for murder? 34% of you said yes, 66% no. The prize winner, C. Reeves. This week's question, do you support Minister Paula Bennett's handling of the DPB training allowance row? Yes or no? Email newsmakers@ctv.co.nz. You can vote on the web or via the post. Do so and you'll be in to win the freshest, finest coffee from Cafe La Fare and a Whitcoulls gift card. By the way, if you want to watch this episode again or any past episodes, go to YouTube, type CTV Newsmakers into the search box, and hey presto, you'll have your learned friends again. Thank you very much to our panel. Have a great week. See you next week. Good night.